A key skill that you'll need when you're programming is to be able to have a look at a section of code and sort of figure out what it does. And we can describe that as reading an algorithm. And there's different kinds of algorithm we can read. We can read pseudocode and we can read flowcharts. This video is going to focus on pseudocode, how to read it, and how to figure out a result from a set of instructions. So let's have a look at this particular algorithm here. We've got the idea here. I've got number equals input, enter a number, smaller equals number minus 2, and then I'm printing out smaller times by 4. So let's follow along and see what happens. So if you see, I've got this variable here, number, and that matches the variable I have over here called number. And here's where I'm inputting data, so input, enter number. So what I can assume is that the first time round this algorithm, the number 3 is going to be used. So I need to figure out what the output is from that. And then the second time round, I'm going to do the number 7. So let's figure out number 3 first. Number is a variable, so look at the variables video if you're not sure about what a variable is, but basically it's sort of like a box that contains a value or a bit of text. In this case it's a number, and it's called number, which is nice and convenient. Okay, next slide. So I've just set the number 3 there because the number 3 is there. Okay, so that's our first input. Smaller equals number minus 2. Well, that creates a new variable called smaller. So I've got another box called smaller, and then I'm going number minus 2. So what's number 3? What's a number? The number 3, and then I subtract 2 from that. So that means in smaller I've got 1. And then I'm doing this print, which is my form of output. Anytime I've seen print, I'm outputting smaller times by 4. What's it smaller? Number 1. So 1 times by 4 is 4. So there's a few numbers there, but hopefully that sort of makes sense. Let's see if you can follow along with 7 and see if you can figure out ahead of me. Okay, we've got the same sort of variables here. So we've got number equals 7. Smaller therefore is going to be 7 minus 2, which is 5, which means we're going to print out the number 20. So far so good. I mean, that is a fairly straightforward algorithm which only features sequencing. So the idea that we do this line first, then this line second, and we work our way down, this line third. Now we're going to move on to a problem which has got a little bit of selection in. So for you to be able to do this one, you're going to need to understand how selection works. So have a look at the video about that if you need to. But it's just this idea that our program can follow one of two different paths depending on a condition. Let's sort of follow along. Okay, value equals input, enter a value. So let's have here a box. Imagine I've got a variable here called value. And then it's input a value. So our first one here, I'm going to choose a different color. Our first one here is 300. So value is going to equal 300. Value equals value minus 100. Okay, what's happening here? Because this is the same name, value here and value there. You might see this in an algorithm. Well, what actually happens is this bit is worked out by a computer first, and then the result is stored into the variable. And if it's the same variable name, it just means that we're basically replacing what is in this box with a new value. So value minus 100, at the moment it's 300. So if we subtract 100 from that, then we're going to end up with 200, aren't we? Okay, so value is going to have 200 in it at this point. It's really important as you're doing and follow along these algorithms, you keep track of what are in variables as you are going along. If you don't do that, you won't be able to figure out exactly what the algorithm is doing. Next bit here, here's our bit of selection. If value greater than 500, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to underline the condition in orange. So value greater than 500. So what this means is if the value is greater than 500, I'm going to do this. If it's not, I'm going to do this. Let's have a look. What is in value? It is 200. Is 200 greater than 500? No, it's less than, which means I'm going to do this here, print the value. So I end up with 200 here because that's what's in my box. Okay, let's do the next one then. So 700 now. If value is 700, what happens? Well, I just need to follow along from the top again. So let's do this line of code at the top first. So that is where I'm going to put, so this line here, that is where I'm going to put whatever value is here into my box. So 700 is now in value. Then this line of code next, value equals value minus 100. Well, we know that just basically means we're subtracting 100 from value now. So that is going to make that 600. Okay, next line. If value is greater than 500, then print too big. Is value greater than 500? We're looking at this condition, value greater than 500. Yes, because value is 600, isn't it? So if value is 600, then I'm doing this bit, print too big. So actually in this case, I'm not outputting a number, I'm outputting the words too big. Okay, our last one. What happens when the value is 600? Let's see if we can figure this out. So set up as we did before, value equals 600. So I'm doing this line to begin with. So value equals 600. Value equals value minus 100. So I'm going to subtract 100 from that. Like I said, what happens, this part, number one here, gets worked out first, and the result gets stored back into there. Just a little trick that you need to pick up if we have a variable of the same name. So 500, right, if value is greater than 500, right, is value greater than 500? It is 500. So is it greater than 500? No, it's equal to 500. That's really important to pick up. That's a common problem that might be thrown at you, trying to figure out greater than or greater than equal to. In this case, 500 is equal to 500, not greater than 500, which means we're not going to do the top half of this. We are going to go down to here where it says print value. So what value we'll go and get? Well, yeah, it's going to be 500. That's what's going to be output. All right, so that's how you can follow along with sequence and selection sort of algorithms. When we start to get onto algorithms which got iteration in them, it's usually far better to use trace tables. So we'll have a look at the video for that to see how we can follow along for those kinds of algorithms. If you found that video useful, please hit the like button and hit subscribe to the channel. Keep learning and revising more computer science by clicking on the videos linked here.